alright. Hush.
Yo guys, what is up? Max on an Outriders video, and today we're talking about why you should main the Pyromancer. Now, this is going to be a series. I'm going to have a why you should main the Trickster, why you should main a Devastator, why you should main Technomancer for all the characters. But the point of this series is to go in depth with the skill trees and the possibilities for the characters for endgame to give you guys an idea of what is going to be possible. And it's going to be my job to show you guys all the cool things that you can do with these characters that we haven't seen yet, so that you can make a more informed decision when it's time to main a character. If you can't be convinced and you already have your main picked, be sure to drop a comment and let me know, because I'm curious what you guys are all going to be playing. I still am a little undecided, so part of doing this series is for me to figure out which character I'm going to go. I hope you guys enjoy it. We're going to be breaking down a lot of cool things. And with that, guys, let's get right into the video. Alright guys, so let's talk about the Pyromancer. Now, the Pyromancer is our kind of like mage archetype in Outriders, and I personally had a pretty bad experience with the Pyromancer in the demo. And that's because I think the Pyromancer starting off is going to be the most gear dependent, because the Pyromancer starts with the hardest to work with passive for healing. The Pyromancer marks enemies with his or her skills, and when you kill a marked enemy, you're going to heal for a percentage of your maximum health. Now, this is tough to use when you aren't able to spam out skills indefinitely, when things aren't always being marked, when you're losing your power. You aren't going to be healing while your skills are on cooldown, and that can put the Pyromancer in a very rough spot to be in. However, the build that I'm going to propose today allows you to always have enemies marked, is going to be ridiculous with its damage. It's going to be a little hybrid between a weapon damage and a skill-based build. That's because we're going to be focusing on volcanic rounds. And let's do this skill tree real quick, and then we'll talk about the potential mods that'll pair really well with this to give you guys a taste for what the Pyromancer can do. Now, the build that I'm going to be speccing is all about volcanic rounds. Now, volcanic rounds says it fills your current weapon magazine with bullets that will ignite the air around enemies and inflict burn onto them, even if the bullet misses. If the bullet hits, it causes skill damage, ignoring armor and piercing the target, damaging others behind them. This skill lasts until you reload or switch weapons. Now, the big difference with this is, first off, if you miss, you're still going to ignite enemies. Your bullets are piercing, they cause skill damage, and they ignore armor. This skill is insane, or at least sounds insane. It looks cool too. We've seen some footage of it, and it's going to last until you reload. Now, we're going to focus on having volcanic rounds indefinitely, which is going to indefinitely be marking enemies for us, because it does skill damage, which is going to allow us to heal off of it. We're going to get leech, where it's going to benefit both of our anomaly damage and our weapon damage in our tree. Now, in the demo, if you had a node that increased weapon damage in your skill tree, and then you activated anomaly rounds on the Trickster, that percentage increase was not applying. However, the devs have come out and said, and this is my little spreadsheet of all my stuff, they've come out and said, for everyone that's wondering about Twister rounds and Blighter rounds not adding in bonus weapon damage from Killing Spree and nodes, I got confirmation from the devs. Just tested our dev build with volcanic rounds and Blighter rounds on the solid top tree percentage damage bonuses works for both of those, and Killing Spree also boosts damage. We'll talk about Killing Spree in a second. They are adding bonus weapon damage in full game. It's a bug in the demo. That allows us to spec nodes such as weapon damage against marked is going to be applying to our volcanic rounds. And because of this, the skill tree that I'm proposing for a spec that we'll talk about in a second, but let's just get through this. So we're going anomaly power to start, because we're going to be doing skill damage with volcanic rounds. The other skills that we're going to pair with this is our Ash Blast and Heat Wave. Once again, we'll get to that in a second. So anomaly power, damage against marked, anomaly power, damage against marked, anomaly power. Already, this is where we're going to start. We're getting a ton of anomaly power and extra damage against marked targets. Next up, we're grabbing, increase firepower by 15% of our anomaly power. Our firepower, our weapon damage, and our anomaly power are all going to be helping our volcanic rounds. Seems like it's going to scale the best off of anomaly power, because it does skill damage, but we're going to allow us to spec into a gun damage build with anomaly power. So we're going anomaly power as the passives on all of our gear, but we're going to get increased firepower because of that, which is going to help us kill enemies. We're getting increased damage by 20% against enemies below 30% health. We're not going to get burn duration, and we don't want any burn duration. We'll talk about that in a second. 10% health. The moment burn ends on an enemy, inflict ash. Now, ash is a freeze. It's a frozen effect, except for less duration. So it's going to freeze enemies. And because we're using volcanic rounds and heat wave, we're going to be applying heat or burns on a ton of enemies. Everything that is going to be burnt is then going to get ash inflicted upon them, which is crazy. We'll talk about that in a second. Weapon damage against marked, more weapon damage. Then we're getting hot situation. Activating an immobilized skill increases our anomaly power by 45% for 10 seconds. Our immobilized skill that we're going to be using is Ash Blast. Creating an anomaly blast to inflict ash onto all enemies within a large radius around you. Now, this becomes super useful in just a second. We're getting ash duration. We want those ash targets to stay ashed for longer. Weapon damage against marked. Yep. We're skipping the sniper node here. Going more weapon damage because we don't need armor piercing if volcanic rounds ignores armor and pierces targets. And we're going to be able to keep it up as much as possible. We don't need armor pierce. Next up, 10% weapon damage against marked, even more weapon damage, and then we get ash applies vulnerable. Now, vulnerable is a multiplicative damage increase, and we're going to be ash blasting targets, which is going to freeze them in an area around us. We're going to be using volcanic rounds, which is going to be applying fire, which is going to be in turn applying vulnerable to literally everything you shoot at, which is going to be strong for you, increasing your damage against them. But so like you're getting damage against marked targets, which are marking them with ash blast and volcanic rounds. You're getting increased damage against enemies that are low health, and you're getting increased damage through vulnerable. And that's not even all of the debuffs. Through this skill tree and the mods that we're talking about, we're going to have at minimum 170% increased damage against targets that we're shooting at, which is insane. More reload time, damage against elites. We're going for 30% damage against ash, that is increasing all of the damage that we're going to be doing to marked targets, and then activating an immobilized skill increases weapon damage. So we're basically popping Ash Blast, and we're getting that immobilized power anomaly. We're getting weapon damage, both from popping those. Enemies are going to be frozen. We're scaling off of anomaly power, our weapon damage, and everything is going to be just, we're going to be cranking out damage. Now, the reason I suggested Heat Wave, and Heat Wave is you don't need to use that here for this proposed theory crafted build, but there's a mod on Heat Wave that stacks, that's enemies damaged by Heat Wave take 35% increased damage. This stacks, and there's skills to increase our Heat Wave damage, or increase the amount of Heat Waves we can do up to like 3. I think I've seen even 4. We'll probably be using 2, giving us a 70% damage increase. So our rotation would be Ash Blast, or like Heat Wave, Ash Blast, activate volcanic rounds, and then just spray at whatever enemies we're trying to kill, basically melting everything. With our weapon damage, or our skills damage against marked targets, our weapon damage against marked targets, because we're getting both of these buffs, are damaged against ash enemies, plus stacking that with damage against ash with them being vulnerable as well, is going to make for a really cool anomaly based weapon damage dealing Pyromancer, and is something super unique that I wanted to talk about because I think the possibilities for Pyromancer are really interesting, and I want to talk about why you should main Pyromancer, because I don't want people writing off this character. Now, I'm not saying that I'm maining Pyro. Pyro is going to be the best character, because we're going to do this for literally every class, but I wanted to share this with you guys because I think it's super, super interesting. Now, in terms of actual mods that we can be using with this, there's a ton. And there isn't a legendary set that is specific yet to volcanic rounds or Ash Blast. Of the legendary sets that we've seen, nothing really interests me. I'm not talking about data mine stuff. I know there's data mine stuff out there. I don't want any spoilers. But for weapons and mods, we're going to be focusing on volcanic rounds, keeping it active, and returning ammo. Now, I haven't seen all the mods in the game, but we're going to be looking for mods that, for example, on this Inferno Seed, critical shots do not consume ammo. Things like that, where we're going to be not consuming ammo. There's this mod that when you kill an enemy that is affected by bleed, you're going to get 50% of your magazine back. If we can use that with Ash, if there's mods for that with Ash, or mods with that for burn, we're going to be able to constantly keep up volcanic rounds. This Inferno Seed also has a mod that critical hits cause an explosion, dealing 283k damage and inflicting burn on enemies within a 5-meter radius, cooldown of 3 seconds. Remember that anytime we're doing burn damage, we're also applying vulnerable as well, and we're not going to be consuming ammo with Ash Blast, which will freeze enemies. You can already see where this is kind of going. You're going to have weapons cranking out headshots because enemies are going to be frozen because of Ash. We're going to be doing lots of mobbing damage. There's a mod that allows weapons when an enemy is at low health to ricochet fire damage between them. That's going to be crazy. We can use like adrenaline whenever your health drops below 50%. All of your skilled cooldowns are reduced by 50% because our health is probably going to be going up and down quite a bit. There's a ton of volcanic round mods, such as a powerful 50% weapon bonus after the skill ends for 5 seconds, just so we can keep that damage flowing, get an extra magazine. And yeah, guys, I'm super excited for the Pyromancer. I think it's going to be really cool. I don't want people sleeping on this class because I think it's going to be very powerful at endgame. Let me know what character you guys plan on maining. If you're not going to play Pyro, or if you are going to play Pyro, let me know because I'm curious. I'm still undecided. I'm thinking between Pyromancer or Trickster, but that is it for the video, guys. I will catch y'all in the next one. Have a good one. Take care. If you liked the video, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.